Hi and welcome to Swan Island Dahlias. I'm Heather and this is Jennifer and we're part of the team here at Swan Island Dahlias, the largest and leading dahlia grower in the United States. We're here ready to show you some dividing information today and to tell you how to get your bulbs ready for storage or ready for planting, depending on when you're going to be dividing these dahlias.
We're going to start with some clumps that have been dug and washed and ready to be divided. Make sure that you have watched the other videos that show you leading up to this point and what to do with your dahlias before you get here. So we have got a clump that has been dug, washed, and is ready to go. First of all, we're going to take and cut off anything that is rotten, the stalk. Anything that would be rotten or unusable, just get rid of it. Don't be afraid to get in here and cut them apart so that you can see what you're doing. You will now see that the eyes are located on this main stalk here where the tuber's attached to. If you're uncertain where to make the cuts on the clump of tubers, the best recommendation would be to take a bird's eye view over the top of the clump and half it. So you're literally going to just cut down through the center of the dahlia stalk so that you have halved it. You can also then go one more time and quarter it. It's not an exact science. You are just downsizing the size of the clump so that it is healthy for your dahlias. You will get better blooms, better root production in future seasons. You just don't want them to get too big to where they stop flowering for you. But again, the eyes are located on this stalk. If you were to cut the tubers off of the main stalk is where the eyes are located and there wouldn't be anything to grow your new plant for the next year.
Most people might be saying, when do I do this? When do I divide my dahlias? It can be done either in the fall, right after you've dug. The tubers will be nice and easy like potatoes to cut. However, the eyes are a little trickier to see and go dormant within about 48 hours. Otherwise, you can wait, store your clumps, which we'll talk about a little bit here, and divide them in the springtime. They'll be a little tougher. The tubers will be more like leather, but they will begin to sprout as it becomes springtime and the eyes will be easier to see. So you kind of have to just make a choice of what you want to do, whether you want to store those clumps whole or whether you want to do your dividing right away. And it kind of depends on how comfortable you are with looking for the eyes. The biggest mistake, the wrong thing to do here,
yes,
and probably the biggest thing that we see or most common mistake beginners make is that they go in, grab their clump, and they saw them all off, cut them all off right there. It now has a body, but it's been cut off right what we would consider at the neck. It has no brain. It has no way of producing a sprout. This down here is just the food source for this plant to grow next spring. So if you've done this and cut them off at their necks, you have nothing. Maybe a good food source, but nothing else. They won't be able to do anything.
So no plant,
no
eye
growth,
on that
they
tuber,
will never.
no sprout.
If you ever have some that you're unsure of, that you've divided in the springtime and you're not sure if they have an eye, set them aside, put them in some peat moss and wait. You never know, they might have a hidden eye on them that might sprout. So if you feel a little more comfortable and want to get a few more tubers out of your clumps, we're going to show you how we do the dividing here on our farm at Swan Island Dahlias. We have a crew of about 20 employees that return every fall to start in about November, and they divide through March. So about 6 months of dividing, 5.5 months, somewhere in there, of dividing the clumps every day solidly to get our product ready to ship out to you. So these tubers just need to be cut apart, and it means just getting in there, starting to get that knife in between. And remember, all of those eyes are going to be on last year's growth, that stalk that you saw. There'll be nothing out on the body of the tuber. And remember that there will not be enough eyes for each tuber. So no matter what, you might have a beautiful clump of 20 tubers. Most people think that they have 20 plants or 20 tubers that they could grow next year. You don't. You might only have 5 good eyes. So you have to decide what you're going to keep and what you're going to throw. You can get it down to single tubers, or you can do like Jennifer's done and given us just a small clump. In there, tucked in there, is some nice eyes that will grow next spring and start sprouting in the springtime.
You might have noticed the tool that we're using today to divide the tubers. They are a hawkbill shoe knife that we use and file.
and carry here at the farm. It's something you can purchase from us. They do have a nice hook on the blade, which allows you to get in those clumps. They do need to be filed with a metal file once you get one. And you'll see the differences between the two there that we're going to show you. One is brand new and one has been filed just probably for a month during one of our seasons here dividing. So now that you've gone ahead and got your tubers divided, we're going to go ahead and show you a couple different labeling methods, because for most people, they'd like to keep their varieties separate, especially if you plan to share with the neighbors, because you will have plenty to share. People sometimes divide every year. Some people wait and divide every few years. We just recommend you do it every couple years as it will help the plant and help your blooming. So once you're ready to go ahead and do the labeling here, there are a couple different methods we can show you. One easy method is getting something like this, which this variety we're dividing is called I'm a Hottie. And if you love that name, you got to check out the website or the catalog. Lots of fun names. We are known very well for our names that we do give our dahlias. So these could be twisted onto your clumps. They could be twisted onto individual tubers, and this would be a great way to label them. We also carry and sell what's called an indelible pencil. And this just takes, it's a nice special pencil, the indelible ink pencil. If you wet down the surface, this becomes like a liquid ink and writes directly on the tuber. And this makes it really nice, and you don't have to worry about something falling off. And if you've ever received our tubers, you know that we label them all by hand stamping them.
We have a lot of customers ask us about using a Sharpie on the tubers. The only thing I would say is that we have had a lot of feedback from our customers that if you write on them with the Sharpie in the springtime, you may no longer see the name or the number you've given it. You will see a blob of ink.
So it tends to bleed a little bit. So it might work okay right now, and Jennifer just used our numbering system. You might notice all of our tubers have a 3-digit number that we use. So either you could use our numbers, because those do not change. They are given that number for life, and that variety will always have the same number. Or you could use just the name, either way, or however you'd like to label them. But the options, like we said, are these copper tags are great. Using that indelible pencil like this works great, or the Sharpie, but Sharpies we've heard good and bad as they might bleed on you. We do probably love the indelible pencil.
It's probably the
easiest
most,
and
yes,
most used methods.
When you're dividing your tubers, you may come across a tuber that is a little bit different. It will be what we consider the mother tuber. It was the original tuber that you planted in the spring. It has a little bit different shape, a little bit different in the skin texture, a little bit rough, more rough skin, but it will definitely still produce. We get asked this a lot, whether this one is worth planting back or not. Absolutely. It may not produce quite as many tubers for you, or the large plant that some of the younger tubers might, but it is absolutely worth planting back. It will be beautiful. And while you are dividing, you'll want to make sure that you trim up the hair roots. You're just cleaning the tubers up. It doesn't hurt them to trim these off. Get these tubers cleaned up. Makes it easier for you to store them, less tangles, much cleaner tubers while you're storing them.
So now that we've got these divided, they're ready to think about storage time. But what we need them to do first is sit for 24 to 48 hours in a protected area, not out in the sun, not out in the cold where they might freeze, maybe in a garage, up on a shelf. We have fans blowing in our rooms where they are air drying. We want those cuts to seal. They're like an open cut on your hand, and we want them to create a seal on those cuts before being stored away. So make sure you air dry them, give them 24 to 48 hours, but no longer than that, or you will start to see them dehydrate. We're going to cover some of that information in the next video about storing, so make sure you check out that video.
And remember, dahlias are great for any garden.
For more information on growing dahlias, visiting our farm, or ordering, make sure you check out our website at dahlias.com.